Mental matters. Understand your mind, empower your life. Let's debunk myths and reveal the facts today. Hey you, welcome back to the channel. Today we're diving deep like Jacques Picard into the ocean of misinformation that surrounds mental health. Because let's face it, there are a lot of myths out there, and sometimes these myths are, to be blunt, kind of bonkers. And these myths aren't just silly, they can actually be really harmful. They can prevent people from seeking help, and they can make people feel ashamed or alone. So today, we're going to do some myth busting by going over 8 myths linked to a person's social well-being. We're going to separate the facts from the fiction, and hopefully, along the way, we can help reduce the stigma around mental health. So buckle up, grab your thinking caps, and let's get started. Our first myth is one that I think a lot of people believe, maybe without even realizing it. It's the idea that mental health issues are rare. Like, oh, that only happens to other people, not to me or anyone I know. But the truth is, mental health issues are incredibly common. In fact, according to the World Health Organization, and I am not making this up, 1 in 8 people worldwide live with a mental health condition. Let that sink in for a second, 1 in 8. That means, statistically speaking, if you're in a room with 8 people, 1 of you is dealing with a mental health issue. And that's just the people who have been diagnosed. There are many more people out there who are struggling in silence. Maybe because they're afraid to speak up, or because they don't even realize what they're dealing with is a mental health issue. So the takeaway here is this: mental health issues are not some rare, distant thing. They're all around us. They affect people of all ages, backgrounds, and walks of life. And it's time we start talking about them openly and honestly. Now, our next myth is one that really gets under my skin. And it's the idea that people with mental health disorders are just being lazy or weak. Like, oh, they could just snap out of it if they really wanted to. This myth is not only insensitive and hurtful, it's also completely untrue. Mental health disorders are not a choice. They're not a sign of weakness. They are real medical conditions that affect the brain. Just like you wouldn't tell someone with a broken leg to just walk it off, you wouldn't tell someone with depression to just cheer up. Mental health disorders require professional help, just like any other medical condition. And just like any other medical condition, recovery is possible with the right treatment and support. So the next time you hear someone say that people with mental health issues are just being lazy or weak, stop them right there and tell them the truth. Mental health is health, and it's time we started treating it that way. All right. Myth number 3 is a bit of a tricky one because on the surface, it seems kind of hopeful. It's the idea that mental health problems will just go away on their own, that time heals all wounds, and all that jazz. And while it's true that some difficult emotions do fade with time, mental health issues are a bit more complicated than that. Ignoring mental health problems is kind of like ignoring a toothache. Sure, you might have moments where the pain isn't so bad, but it's always there, lurking beneath the surface. And if you don't get it checked out, it's only going to get worse. The same goes for mental health. Mental health issues often require professional help, they often require self-care, and they often require support from others to improve. Waiting it out doesn't work, just like you wouldn't wait for a broken bone to heal without treatment. So if you're struggling, don't wait for the problem to magically disappear. Reach out for help. Talk to a therapist, a counselor, a trusted friend, or family member. There are people who care about you and want to help you feel better. Therapy. It's not just for crazy people. Myth number 4 is one that I think prevents a lot of people from seeking the help they need. It's the idea that therapy is only for crazy people. that you have to be having a full-blown mental breakdown to even consider talking to a therapist. But the truth is, therapy is for everyone. You don't have to be in crisis to benefit from talking to a professional. Think of therapy like going to the gym for your mental health. You don't have to be an Olympic athlete to benefit from exercise, right? You go to the gym to stay in shape, to build strength, to improve your overall well-being. Therapy is kind of the same thing. It can help you work through difficult emotions. It can help you develop coping mechanisms. It can help you improve your relationships with yourself and others. It's a powerful tool for mental well-being, and it's something that everyone can benefit from at some point in their lives. So if you're on the fence about therapy, I encourage you to give it a try. You might be surprised at how helpful it can be. Kids have feelings too, you know? All right, this next myth is one that I think is slowly starting to change, but we still have a long way to go. It's the idea that children don't experience mental health problems because, childhood is supposed to be this magical, carefree time, right? Well, I hate to break it to you, but kids are people too, and people have feelings. And sometimes those feelings can be really big and scary and confusing, especially when you're a kid and you don't have the same emotional vocabulary or coping mechanisms that adults do. Children and teenagers can absolutely experience mental health issues. In fact, conditions like anxiety, depression, and even PTSD can affect young people just as much as they affect adults. And just like with adults, recognizing these signs early on is crucial. If you notice that a child in your life is struggling, maybe they're having trouble sleeping, maybe their grades are slipping, maybe they're more withdrawn than usual, don't dismiss it. Talk to them. Listen to them. Let them know that it's okay to not be okay and that you're there for them no matter what. Early intervention is key when it comes to mental health, and it can make a world of difference in a child's life. So let's be there for our kids. All right, myth number 7 is one that's particularly harmful and stigmatizing. It's the idea that people with mental illness are dangerous, that they're all ticking time bombs just waiting to go off. This myth is perpetuated by the media, by movies, by TV shows, and it's simply not true. The vast majority of people with mental health conditions are not dangerous. In fact, they are far more likely to be the victims of violence than the perpetrators. And this is a really important point because this myth, this idea that people with mental illness are dangerous, it leads to fear. It leads to discrimination, and it prevents people from seeking help. So the next time you see a news story about a violent crime and the perpetrator has a history of mental illness, remember that this is not the norm. Don't let one isolated incident cloud your judgment of an entire group of people. People with mental illness are just like everyone else. They deserve our compassion, our understanding, and our support. This next myth is one that I hear a lot, and it's the idea that taking medication for mental health makes you weak or dependent. Like, oh, you're just taking the easy way out, or you're just masking your problems instead of dealing with them. And I get it. There's still a lot of stigma around taking medication for mental health. But here's the thing, medication can be life-changing for some people. Just like medication for any other medical condition, medication for mental health can help to correct chemical imbalances in the brain, which can alleviate symptoms and improve quality of life. Now, I'm not saying that medication is the answer for everyone. It's a personal decision that should be made in consultation with a doctor. But it's important to remember that taking medication for mental health doesn't make you weak or dependent. It makes you someone who is taking control of their health and well-being. And finally, our last myth is one that I think we've all heard at some point in our lives. It's the idea that you can just snap out of mental health problems, that it's just a matter of willpower or positive thinking. And if only it were that easy, right? If only we could just choose to feel better, to not be anxious or depressed or whatever else we're struggling with. But the reality is, mental health problems are not something you can simply shake off. They're complex, they're multifaceted, and they often require a multi-pronged approach to treatment. Telling someone to snap out of it is not helpful. It's dismissive, it's invalidating, and it can make them feel even worse. So the next time you hear someone say this, challenge them, educate them, let them know that mental health is just as important as physical health, and it's not something you can just snap out of. All right, that wraps up our mental health myths video. If you've ever believed one of these myths, you're not alone. But now, you have the facts to help yourself or someone else. Remember, mental health is just as important as physical health, and seeking help is a sign of strength, not weakness. If you found this video helpful, make sure to give it a thumbs up and share it with someone who might need to hear this. And don't forget to subscribe for more content on mental health and well-being. Thanks for watching, and take care of yourself.